Hello everyone, welcome to Technology Thursday. I'm David John Sponheim, running for president in 2016, and tonight we're going to be talking about unbelievable stories evolving all across the nation. The most important story hitting the news today is this incredible race that occurred between one particular area of the country and another. This is perhaps the worst scenario possible. A woman is in a traffic stop. Police are setting up roadblocks. She somehow panics because she has a child in her back seat, and she decides to make a run for it, and she ends up dying. This happened in near the rotunda between the Capitol building and the White House. Let me play you some shocking footage of that event.
White House. It ended on Capitol Hill. The cops opened fire. This is near Capitol Hill. I want you to watch this. These are police officers. You're going to hear some. You're going to hear some gunshots. That's 7 gunshots. The woman in the coupe keeps driving. You see her car. That's the car zooming away after the police officers fired upon her.
Okay, it turns out that this woman, who was literally parked right here, was approached by police officers, and they must have seen her small 5-year-old in the back seat, but she was so intimidated by this event that she stormed out of there and ended up getting shot and died. Now, this is a tragic case of police stupidity and brutality, and I believe that this kind of event is not something that would happen if these police officers were properly trained. She wasn't the cause of a problem. Apparently there was a roadblock because of some reference to an AR-15 in the area, and police had cordoned off the area. But this woman was just responding as any woman would to save her child. Very serious event that happened today, and I'm very sorry for her loss of life. It turns out she was a dental hygienist, and all these things that are coming out really make you wonder, are we living in a greater police state than we could possibly imagine? I've just never heard of such an outward display of police brutality in my life. Okay, we've got other things going on. Jerry Brown is granting driver's license to illegal immigrants. As if that couldn't get any worse. California's governor signed a bill Thursday granting illegal immigrants driver's license. Now, this is something immigration groups are hailing as a major step forward for their movement. I got to ask you, do those people even have enough money to pay for a driver's license? Because some of them are saving all their money to pad their pockets on the backs of the American taxpayer. A lot of them don't have any car insurance. That's why we all face higher uninsured car insurance plans because of this. Yet this governor of California is completely oblivious to the illegal alien problem, which is growing day by day. I mean, there's 11.6 million on the record in America, illegal immigrants, but probably the number is closer to 20 million. New information from Adobe Systems. They said Thursday that hackers had accessed personal data for nearly 3 million of its customers. Brad Arkin, the Adobe Chief Security Officer, wrote in a blog post that the hackers had removed data including encrypted credit and debit card numbers, but the company does not believe any decrypted numbers were taken. Well, surely they can decrypt numbers. A lot of hackers have decryption software, so seriously, 3 million people losing their security, their credit card numbers. This is serious. White House, this story in. Obama's framing everything to sound like it's all the Republicans' fault with the standoff in Congress over the government shutdown. White House petition designates the GOP a terrorist organization over a looming debt standoff. While hoping to avoid a government shutdown fizzle, critics of the GOP have taken the White House online petition platform, blasting the Republican approach to what is expected to be the next congressional standoff over Obamacare and government spending. Well, I got to ask you, why don't we end Obamacare, period? It never should have been passed. Reconciliation is one of those things that even constitutional law experts have stated doesn't have any use for passing landmark legislation. Reconciliation should never have been used to pass that landmark legislation, and we all remember what happened. Dennis Kucinich got on Barack Obama's Air Force One and had a drink, and then all of a sudden he signs the deal, and then the whole thing became law. Well, now they're having a problem implementing the law. The cyber problems are unfolding, computer glitches, you name it. And then the worst thing about this healthcare problem is it essentially is creating fear among the American people. Most people don't realize that if you make less than $62,000 a year, you'll be covered with Medicaid. Most people don't realize that, so they're going to be calling up healthcare providers saying, "Oh, could you hook me up for a $15,000 a year plan?" They don't have the kind of money to pay that out. The American people, about 70 million people, don't have health insurance because there's nothing affordable out there. So Barack Obama should be front forward and tell them that if you make less than $62,000, you won't be facing any fines and you won't have to worry about it because Medicaid is expanded. And we can't afford it. So clearly it's a non-starter, and Obama should just drop it, and then we can move forward with the budget. Troops are foraging for food during this government standoff while golfers play on in a shutdown. This story from Bloomberg. Grocery stores on Army bases in the U.S. are closed. The golf courses at Andrews Air Force Base is open. So we've got a lot of things happening in the country right now that are just not being answered by anybody in official ways. We're seeing a deadlock in Congress, and the two parties continue to strangle every effort at agreement. Okay, we are not taking any calls right now, but I will take your calls as soon as we're done with this segment. Here we're looking at a natural news story from naturalnews.com, a great source for information, by the way, saying that Obamacare fines are going to be seized directly from Americans' bank accounts. So if you make over $62,000, you could be facing a seizure of your bank totals. Your assets in your bank may be taken. As more Americans wade into the complicated, confusing mess that is Obamacare and its health insurance exchanges, they're beginning to learn how punitive and punishing and threatening the law is going to be. If the very recent Facebook post describing a man's experience when he attempted to sign up to Obamacare coverage is even halfway accurate, this law will turn out to be the most oppressive threat to our freedom since the days of King George. And that's not a hyperbole. That's not some sort of a grandiose, exaggerated idea. Okay, and more news today on Technology Thursday. This CNN is keeping count. CNN has announced that some congressmen are actually going to try to not receive money. While more than 800,000 federal workers, including some congressional staffers, are getting furloughed during the government shutdown, members of Congress are still getting paid, and that is, of course, required by law. But some of the members of the House and Senate have refused to receive any money, or they're giving their money to charities. 32 senators are donating to charities or back to the Treasury Department, while 9 are not accepting a paycheck and 2 are undecided. So out of 533, we've got 42, maybe 43 honest congressmen and women. That's about it. Speaking of money getting taken away, take a look at this story about Virgin Galactic. They're siphoning money and all of our best people from NASA to produce their for private benefit and to help Richard Branson Foundation. Virgin Galactic future astronauts are meeting at a facility. And let me tell you, our government has allocated $4.6 million for NASA to pay to be on the Virgin Galactic's maiden voyage.
Of our investments, Branson hired Spaceship One designer Burt Rutan, who had since retired from Scaled, to create a fleet of spaceships for commercial use. Virgin Galactic has taken deposits from more than 500 people for rides, which cost £125,000.
Okay, £125,000, that's enough to smile about for her, from her perspective, but I know a lot of us want to fly at 70,000 feet in the ionosphere. But what they're not mentioning to you is that Virgin Galactic had a major catastrophe on the fields in Nevada when they tested out the maiden voyage in their testing centers. 5 people were burned. 3 died. It was a terrible disaster. So what's really to say that any one of these maiden voyages could be a disaster in the making? And that really begs the question, why are we allowing private enterprise to profit from NASA? And I've raised this question on many shows that I've done. NASA is infrastructure that the American taxpayer has dedicated a huge amount of money to, and Barack Obama's just giving it away like it was nothing, giving it away to private enterprises. They've got $1.6 billion contract with a company to fly supplies up, 8 payloads to the International Space Station, ISS. And this program is giving private companies our tax dollars. This is at a time when we need to cut back. Barack Obama is just throwing money at programs like this, giving private investors like Richard Branson the profit. Okay, we had a lot of great links tonight from Candy Rain. She brought us top 10 emerging technologies. All kinds of things are coming forth that are looking good for 2013. Online electric vehicles, tethered to the ground with an electromagnetic field, broadcast cables installed under the road, that's coming. I'm sure the oil companies will probably stop that from happening. 3D printing and remote manufacturing looks very promising. Possibilities of creating things, blueprints from computer-aided design, sliced into cross-section, printing templates, blah, blah, blah. Self-healing materials, that looks good. Things that actually repair themselves when they're cut, torn, or cracked, kind of like our skin. Energy-efficient water purification. The water scarcity is a worsening ecological problem in many parts of the world due to competing demands from agriculture and human uses. Wouldn't it be great to make fresh water, purify it, and have zero fossil fuel being used? Well, we have a plan at America's Third Party that could very well do just that. We have a plan called the Seawater Pipeline Project, which, if you want to go to one of our websites, you can actually see it at oceanpipeline.com. We feature this particular device, which is a module about 7 by 11 feet in dimension, and this particular one is just a sample of one of them linked together along a long chain of these modules. This particular project really has great promise because it won't use any fossil fuel. We'll be pumping water into these desalination chambers where the water will evaporate. The seawater in the middle of this thing will evaporate into the inside of the dome, and then the dewdrops of fresh water land in the reservoirs on the side and then become drinking water, and we can store that. This particular module will create 2 gallons of fresh water a day. That may seem small, but when you look across a distance of 200 miles, all these modules connected together, and it's fairly cheap to produce these things. We can produce them for less than $1,000 a piece. We can get about 250,000 gallons of fresh water from a 200-mile stretch of property. Whether it's the Central California area or maybe exporting this technology to other countries for profit, for our gain as a nation, might be something we could look at as well. All of that is entirely possible, and that's why I think we are on the cutting edge at America's Third Party in creating energy-efficient water purification. Carbon dioxide conversion and use. There's more things coming in 2013. The possibility remains that we could long-promised technologies for the capture and underground sequestration of carbon dioxide have yet to be proven commercially viable, even at the scale of a single large power station. But the new technologies that convert unwanted CO2 into saleable goods can potentially address both the economic and energetic shortcomings in conventional strategies. Now, FutureGen was the project that George Bush funded for $2 billion a year, and Barack Obama continued the FutureGen project for $1 billion a year. That does have promise for clean coal technology, and I certainly would move toward getting innovations installed in all of our coking plants and factories, refineries across the nation, and modernizing our refineries so that we can stop wasting gas, wasting petroleum, and burning carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. More enhanced nutrition to drive health at the molecular level. Remote sensing, increased widespread use of sensors that allow often passive responses to external stimuli will continue to change. It goes on and on. Precise drug delivery through nanoscale engineering, organic electronics and photovoltaics. A type of printed electronics is the use of organic materials such as polymers. I actually have a video on that I should play you guys. It's it's one of our key videos. Let's take a look and see if I can pull it up. Take a look here. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be there. Okay, that's all right. We'll move on. Okay, 4th generation reactors and nuclear waste recycling. This is one of my favorite areas. You know, back under Clinton, there was an exodus away from nuclear reprocessing. The cold fusion technology, in fact, I should probably play that video for you tonight, later on, if you want to watch that. I'll play that in our documentary footage section at coolrock.com. But cold fusion technology has great hope and promise. European scientists find that it's possible to develop energy from splitting the water molecules. The strong force between hydrogen and oxygen to create H2O is something that could generate electricity. We could use that fusion technology to generate electricity. The possibility of getting rid of spent fuel rods is really, really important. 104 nuclear reactors in our country have almost filled to capacity the number of spent fuel rods that they're able to hold. And we at America's Third Party believe that we could develop a fast breeder reactor near Yucca Mountain, right near the depository that Obama has mothballed. And that fast breeder reactor would systematically get rid of 97% of nuclear fissionable material from all of the spent fuel rods that we have in our storage bins around the country. This is something we can need to move on and make our nation safer for future generations. We also believe in the possibility of nuclear waste recycling, fourth generation reactors like the Pebble reactor technology. All that is something that I think all of us are going to be very amazed to see in the future. So a lot of things are coming forth, breaking technologies. Candy Rain sent us another link here, deep learning, amounts of computational machines now capable of recognizing objects and translating speech, temporary social media that disintegrates to protect your privacy, prenatal DNA sequencing, just to make sure that you have the right DNA. I mean, there's talk about combining the DNA of 3 people into one in vitro fertilization technique. All these different things are coming. Smart watches. This is one of my favorite right here. Let me bring this up for you. Ultra efficient solar power. Now, we've talked about the MIT development that happened about 4 years ago, where they were using nanotechnology. They can get 85% of the sunlight to convert to electricity. Doubling the efficiency of a solar cell would completely change the economics of renewable energy. Nanotechnology just might make it possible. So all that's very possible. And here's a little tidbit for you if you want to actually improve your ability to get software that you use on your phone. This came from Candy Love, and it's a link to free safe software, BlueStacks App Player. You can download this thing at freesafesoftware.com. The BlueStacks App Player is a application that's very beneficial for those of you who would like to run a few applications from your phone on your computer. Anyone with an Android phone would be able to use the phone applications on their PC. Pretty cool, huh? Other information, this just in, a warning, a recall on surge arrest. Recalling 15 million surge protectors that came out from 1993 to 2002. And these things start fires. So beware, if you've got one of these things, you need to make sure it is recalled. This is at usatoday.com if you want to look that up. And then I want to remind you that Obama doesn't even care about the people that voted for him. This is a classic example of a person who just ignores everybody who got him elected. The public unions, check this out. This is classic.
I'm going to shut down the whole plant until I get something. You get fired.
Yeah. So in other words, if basically people want to go on strike, they get fired. So Obama doesn't really have a comprehensive plan to help the public unions. Now he's trying to hurt people who are working in the public unions, which is interesting because I believe that we need to readjust the pension plans and change the dynamic with public unions, because I'm not a big public union supporter. I am a private union supporter, but this guy's over the top. He's actually encouraging all these public unions to be fired. Okay, Bush Sr. Don't want to play this one, but I'm going to do it anyway. This is very tragic information coming from a guy who seems to be thinking that the world's run by conspiracies. Now, you can decide what you think about this after you hear it. It's a 1 minute and 23-second video about a clandestine organization within the CIA called the Black Rose that's been handling drug trafficking for years. You know, if we have a problem like that, we at least as Americans should listen to this guy and you know, decide for ourselves if we have a problem with the CIA running drugs. You decide.
Now, I have some sources, some confidential sources, who furnish me information from time to time. And there's code words for some of these various operations. The code word that I'm going to tell you about right now, and this is in my source's own handwriting. He doesn't write too well, so I may make some mistakes. The Black Rose is the code word for this. It's a clandestine group of U.S. government operatives, primarily the CIA, which has for many years run illegal drugs and arms operations in both Southeast Asia via the Golden Triangle and the Middle East via the Golden Crescent, funded by the British socialist-based Russell Trust drug cartel. The Black Rose's current chairman and co-founder is an individual known as the White Rose, or GHWB, a known bisexual pedophile and CFR, Council on Foreign Relations conspirator. This man, as a top member of the Skull and Bones Society, developed the heroin ring, which, while servicing as ambassador, along with his CIA activities. The Black Rose also runs cocaine through Panama from Colombia to the offshore oil rigs in the Gulf of Mexico. That's directly from the government agent.
Okay, well, GHWB would have to be George H.W. Bush. Am I correct in assuming that? So he's implicating George H.W. Bush in almost every unimaginable CIA op since the onset of all of our problems. Could it be that the Bush family and the Obamas are all connected to some secret CIA operation? Is that possible? Is it possible that Barack Obama was a CIA agent, basically conscripted out of Occidental College because he had absolutely failing grades and was into cocaine and crack and all that? Could it be that he actually read the sign that was on the wall at the Career Center offering anybody with Farsi, Indonesian, or Middle Eastern dialect knowledge to join the CIA? I was there. I went to orientation at Occidental. I saw that sign right on the door. As you open the door to the Career Center, it was right there. It was Barack Obama, 1 year later, basically conscripted into the CIA. Did he work with the same people that George H.W. Bush essentially worked with? So all of this is something we talk about on Conspiracy Monday. And I want all of you to know that I don't just jump on board a conspiracy, and I'm not saying that any of this is true, but there is evidence, like this former FBI retired general or high-ranking official talking about this stuff. Now, I'm going to bring you one more story, which is perhaps the most disturbing of all. And that is a story that came out of Peter Schiff. Peter Schiff is the top economist that has openly stated that our country is headed toward hyperinflation. And he said that 2/3 of America is going to lose everything because of this crisis. A record-breaking stock market is distorting frightening reality. The U.S. is being eaten alive by a horrific cancer that will ultimately destroy the economy and impoverish the vast majority of its citizens. Basically, Peter Schiff has been saying what I've been saying for some time. I'll take calls in just a second. Hang on. He says that despite phony signs of economic recovery, the cancer destroying America stems from a lethal concoction of our $16 trillion federal debt and the Fed's never-ending money printing. You know, Ben Bernanke has been buying up bonds, mortgage-backed securities, $1 trillion a year, and $85 billion a month is definitely adding up to create an even bigger budget deficit that is about the same level. So he's basically borrowing as much as our deficit is. At the same time, we're shielding the American people from the cold, hard truth about a failing economy. And one can only wonder, are they planning on some sort of a false flag operation to trigger this, or rather to cover up and divert attention from this real, reckless printing of money by Ben Bernanke? Are they planning a war in Syria to take our mind off it, blaming the cost of the war on our economy problems? Because they've been faking the economy with printed money by giving it to all kinds of Wall Street executives who go around investing in other countries instead of investing in U.S. jobs. At America's Third Party, we have an infrastructure bank concept that will lead to 2% loans given away directly from the Treasury to U.S. businesses hiring U.S. employees. This is a common sense approach to solving America's problems so that we stimulate the private sector and get the kind of jobs we need and we've needed for the past 4 years. I want to thank all of you for watching our recorded broadcast for Technology Thursday. Thanks again. And by the way, we do this every night except Sunday, the 6 to 9 show. And don't forget to catch every single show in archive at youtube.com/America's Third Party. Thanks for watching.